All right, coming up, this story's going to make you sick. It's got me shaking my head. There you see some of the verbiage. Psychologist accused of having a sexual relationship with a former patient. License has been suspended, but hey, I thought that was a felony. Shouldn't there be some charges here? And we know this, the woman who was being treated ended up having a mental breakdown. It's outrageous. A psychologist in Florida accused of not only having sex with a former patient, but then billing Blue Cross for their quote-unquote sessions. Here's Melanie Brooks from Prime News affiliate WTSP.
Documents show that South Tampa psychologist Dr. Daniel Lerom was having sex with his patient for months in early 2009 and then billed her Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance for their sessions. Text messages between the doctor and patient outline a hot and heavy romance. The 49-year-old psychologist told his patient, "My body felt great all over after last night. I wish you were here in the shower with me to warm me up. If I were there, I would rub you and kiss you all over." The doctor even referred to himself as her red-hot lover, or RHL for short. Documents also show that the two had oral sex and intercourse in hotel rooms, his office, and the patient's home in Lakeland. She even gave him a key.
It's a felony. You know, it's against the Hippocratic Oath. It's something you just don't do.
Ken Kramer is a researcher for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, a group that investigates psychiatric abuse. He wants to know why this case hasn't gone to police. In this email, the commission is asking the question directly to the Department of Health. Did they turn over the information to authorities about Dr. Lerom and the allegations he had that he was having sex with a patient? And the answer we found out is no.
That this is not okay to do. It's psychiatric rape. It's psychological rape. It's not okay. It's against the law. These guys can go to jail for this type of thing.
Dr. Lerom is now being sued by his former lover, whose identity has not been revealed. He had been counseling the woman for relationship problems, and after she broke off her engagement, records show she began having an affair with Dr. Lerom. But when the doctor's wife found out, he broke it off. Shortly after, the woman was institutionalized after her mental collapse.
All right, our thanks to Melanie Brooks, Prime News affiliate WTSP, for that report. All right, let's get our experts in on this. Welcome back to CNN legal analyst Lisa Bloom. Also with us, psychologist Cooper Lawrence. Joining us as well, psychotherapist Mary Jo Rapini. Mary Jo, I'll start with you. How serious does the mental health community take that oath where you're not to have a sexual relationship with a patient or a former patient?
We take it very seriously. In fact, it's one of the most important oaths of all. And I cannot believe somebody would do something like this.
Yeah.
It's despicable.
Cooper, let me get you in on this. Just the vulnerability there that a patient has in a case like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. It's a position of power this therapist is in. He took advantage of a very vulnerable patient. And what really irks me is this really does a damage to people who are afraid to go to therapy. It makes people say, oh, well, look at these therapists. They have no morals. Look at how they are.
And to go along with that, here's a Facebook comment. Tamara writing, I think it's wrong, wrong, wrong. It makes therapists get a bad name for ourselves. Maybe Tamara's a therapist as well. So hearing you on that front, let's bring Lisa in on this. And Lisa, here's the way I understand it. And the expert there in the package, Mr. Kramer, talked about it. It's a felony. Psychotherapist to commit sexual misconduct with a client or former client when the professional relationships ends primarily for the purpose of having sex, and consent is not a defense. Do you expect criminal charges, Lisa, on this?
I would be very surprised if criminal charges are not filed. This is an extremely important case because look at the fallout to this woman's psyche. I mean, she had a breakdown. She had to be institutionalized after this was over. This was a married psychotherapist who was much older than her, who had treated her for many years, and perhaps he thought he was being cute by saying, okay, our therapeutic relationship has ended. Now tonight we can go out and start dating and having a romantic relationship, which is essentially how this went down. He ended the relationship so that he could have a personal relationship with her. No, the law sees around that and says you can't do that. The relationship is much more important than that. There's much more depth to it than that. You can't just end the relationship to have sex with somebody. By the way, this complaint that you're looking at on the screen right now also says that he was asking her repeatedly for medications that were prescribed to her, medications like Vicodin. He also allegedly committed insurance fraud, so he's got a lot of legal problems.
Yeah, you throw it's like a soup, like this evil soup that you're concocting there, and you're right, Lisa. When you talk about there's a history. I mean, they go back to 1995, but where the line is crossed for sure, it's what, February, and he is quoted as saying, if If I were available, I would date you. Cooper Lawrence, there it is, right? There's the full violation, right?
Right. It's a huge violation. I mean, and the fact that he knew this patient was vulnerable and the fact that they took advantage, I mean, this is a total abuse of power.
When you hear this case, as someone in the mental health community, you talked about it. Boundaries, walls have to be built, right? So you don't come anywhere near this.
Absolutely. This is just so incredible. The fact that this guy is not in jail right now is so perplexing. He's a drug addict. He's got his own issues. Someone like this should never have been counseling another person who is so vulnerable. He was very selfish and acted out terribly, and he should not be doing what he's doing.
Yeah. Again, allegedly, it sounds like took care of himself, and as Lisa mentioned, we'll talk a little bit more about it after the break. Not only does this relationship allegedly take place, but then he's billing the insurance company for some of their quote-unquote sessions to the tune of $1,400. So then when this lady needs therapy, the insurance is run out. It's unbelievable. It just gets worse as we keep delving in.
It's a felony. You know, it's against the Hippocratic Oath. It's something you just don't do. This is not okay to do. It's psychiatric rape. It's psychological rape. It's not okay. It's against the law. These guys can go to jail for this type of thing.
Again, some strong words from Ken Kramer, who follows this type of thing, as we're looking at a doctor facing some allegations of having an inappropriate sexual relationship with a patient/former patient. He's billing the insurance company to the tune of $1,400. How much trouble can he be in for that?
Yeah, that's gall, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, not only having sex with a patient, but then trying to get paid for it. It's almost smacks of prostitution in some kind of way. Look, insurance fraud is clearly a crime. This might be a relatively low-level crime, a misdemeanor, because it's only $1,400, but it doesn't mean that he wouldn't be looking at least some jail time for it. I think more seriously would be the felony charge for having sex with her, because it is a felony. She can't consent, even though she's an adult, because she had the therapeutic relationship with him. That would provoke more serious time if he was convicted of that.
Yeah, and here's how it ended. I want to read the text, and it's a short one. This is from the doctor to this lady that he was having the alleged affair with. My wife just read this message. They have to stop for a long time until I say it's okay. This is serious. Dan. Okay, and we know this lady ended up with a mental breakdown. Mary Jo Rapini's with us. Mary Jo, what happens possibly to this patient here, a one-time patient, as this relationship now begins to end?
Well, you know, what I'm most concerned with is, number one, she went to him in the beginning at the age of 23,
right,
and for marital problems, ended up divorcing from that marriage, continued with him, and then finally broke it off, or he broke it off for a couple of years. It sounded like she was just coming out on her own again. She had a boyfriend, and then he intervenes again for more of her drugs. And I think what may have ended up happening is, because when she would start feeling better, maybe getting stronger, just him being there is so abusive that she wasn't able to ever get over it, and most likely she just had a break. She doesn't know who to trust. She doesn't trust herself. Every boundary she knows of has been blurred now, meaning her main caretaker or health caretaker is now is having sex with her and using her medications, and there's no semblance of sanity or normality in her life anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And Cooper, again, we tried to reach out to the doctors, attorneys, didn't get any comment back. Cooper, it's manipulation on so many fronts. The relationship, insurance money, prescription drugs, it knows no end.
Right, it knows no end, because that's what narcissists do. They take advantage of people. They have no empathy for other people. They take what they can, as much as they can, until somebody says stop. And you're not going to have a vulnerable patient who has relationship issues and obviously drug issues saying stop. And that, you know, this is the cautionary tale that, you know, if you feel like something might be wrong in a situation between you and somebody that you're supposed to trust your instinct first. First, start talking to people and ask and say, this is what my therapist asked me. This is what he said. Does this sound bizarre to you? Start having that conversation.